Hey guys, welcome to this week's Tardis console building video. This week we're jumping into the mechanical panel. I'm really excited to share this one with you. Now the mechanical panel is one that's most differentiated by its multicolored keyboard. So this is I usually call it the keyboard panel. That's usually how I immediately know what's on it, just by thinking of the keyboard. Now this one has a few really unique details as well. Like every panel across this whole thing, it's got some really unique pieces that are different, unidentified and identified both. Some things I'm still finding, some things I'm so close and looking for or identifying, and I'm really excited to share what I found so far with you. And starting next week, we will have the final video of this entire 5-panel go around. We will briefly the following week talk about my custom panel, and then I think I'm gonna have some updates. I have some things that I found in between last week's video and this week's video. I have found and identified a few items that I'm still waiting for in the mail. So once it shows up, I can't wait to actually share that with you. Some things are updates, some things are finds, and even just today itself, in the making of this video, I have identified a part on this panel, which I will turn around and share, but I'm looking forward to also picking up those pieces. So let's get this going. So starting on the bottom left, again, this panel has a couple inset pieces like the previous panel we talked about, and they are kind of symmetrical of just those sides. And it does kind of create a unified look to them, but each of them are filled with different things. This one is filled with half a dozen pieces here that are pretty neat. Some of the things were identified almost immediately, which is kind of cool. So we're gonna start with those, and that is actually these guys. Now these are surf and turf relay switches. They are available online, eBay, even some online stores. They are completely modern. Now what separates these from other ones you may see online that have the rocking switch activation is that they actually have a light in it. So I'm hoping that when I wire these up with the prongs that are on it, that I'll be able just to make them do it as they're supposed to do, is you press down and the light lights up. So I'm looking for that. It is a nice click sound. I'm sure you can hear it over the mic here. And of course you get 5 of them. So I'm able to fit all 5 of these in there. Now what's really cool is I have also, which I'll be sharing in future videos more as we start going through all the other pieces, I have been taking the opportunity to make line drawings of every panel that I have while I work it out for myself. And thankfully there's a number of these products, especially nowadays, that have documentation and their actual like architectural or engineering diagrams available online. So I was able to actually download these ones and use the exact footprint and the exact details on it to plan out where they go on the build. So I was able to kind of shift them around to make sure I can still get all 5 of these. Now jumping to the left of those is another push to stop or push to operate button. Now what's interesting is in a couple weeks I'm gonna have an update to this part. Last week had one as well, if you recall. I talked about having a blue one and a red one, that's all I can get. And the red one version is in here. It's this one right here. And it's great. It has its kind of same look. It feels good. However, since making this video, I've identified, I believe, the exact ones that are used on both of these builds. It was an accident. I accidentally came across them, and so I'm just, like I said, I'm waiting for them to show up in the mail, and then I'll be able to make an update video in the future to talk about the updated pieces of these. I still may end up using these in my custom panel or in another place or another prop altogether. They are kind of cool. And they do the part well, but if I can use the exact pieces or the exact parts when I can, I'm gonna do that, especially when they're as cost effective as these. They didn't cost a lot of money, so I'm really excited to show that to you guys. But again, I wanted to confirm it, have them, and kind of go over it. Above this though is 2 buttons, lights, I don't know. I can't really tell. So as you're looking at the pictures of the console close-ups here, I don't know, do you recognize them? Do you know anyone that would recognize them? Again, as I keep mentioning through all these videos, please show somebody if you think that they can help, but I can't tell if these are like rubber push buttons or if they're just lights that turn on. So I don't know what they're gonna be. I don't know what they're gonna do. They may just be something that just kind of flashes light. I may end up 3D modeling it and just having something close. I may find something. They look kind of translucent, so it leads me to think that they might just be some sort of like miniature panel light or indicator light, but I don't know. Now above these pieces is a really neat thing that I have not been able to identify at all. In my opinion, they definitely found this and they just put it in. So in the interim, this is like an easy piece to make, but when I was first doing this, and if you've seen all my videos to now, you'd probably remember the video where I talked about finding the banana switches, which are all right here, including the fuses. So these are what I'm gonna use, and I did custom design the panel, but I'm gonna do some tweaks and changes. I've identified better fonts since making my original ones, as well as just how I'm gonna mount it into the console itself. So I want to take the opportunity to do that as correctly, as right as possible. So yeah, it's a neat piece. I want to know where it came from. If you have an idea about where it would have came from originally, I would love to know. Whether or not finding a piece, sometimes just knowing what these pieces are and what they were used for just is enough to kind of know, to sate my curiosity, but also just that kind of like finding what was this? What did it come from? Why do they have it? And some pieces are obvious, you know, they find switches or lights and you're cool, or even just like any kind of panel that you're like, oh, okay, so these are from panels, and they grab them. Those are cool. But some of the other switches and faders and sliders, it's like, what were they? In this piece, don't know what it is. I would love any insight anyone has to offer, but to start, we'll just go with it. We're just gonna make it, and I look forward to actually updating you guys. I think this time, rather than using acrylic, I'm actually gonna get it laser cut in metal, in like a thin piece of metal. Just I think that might add to the authenticity, but also give me a little bit more of a less worry of it breaking at all ever. So I did find a really cool metal place, which I'm going to share in the future as well when I send away all the things I'm going to be making in metal that I'll be using. So I'm really excited to try this out and go from there. Now above there is 2 gauges and 4 switches. Now jumping to the switches right away, it's actually a modern piece as well. I really love when you can find modern pieces, but it's actually these, which I'll do a close-up here while I'm talking about it. They're very simple potentiometers. They have a blue line on it. They're very simple. They have a kind of like a thicker hat base on it. So I was really happy to be able to find these. I got a whole bag full, so if I have some extra, so anyone building this console, anything I have extra, I may be selling a kit of all my spare stuff. So keep an eye for that. But in the interim, I'm really happy. I'm really excited to have these. And again, I don't know if they're gonna do anything. They may just spin. We'll see. If I can find a way to make these spin and move the needle of the actual voltmeters that are beside it, that would be my dream, because you can kind of like control it. But for now, they'll just be non-functional and just kind of fun. Now those particular gauges that are in there, I'm pretty sure I found the brand, which is a CFAM or a CFAM, or however you want to pronounce it, gauge, and they have a particular size. Now, part of the problem is my downsized console makes it hard to find the right size gauges. So I'm just gonna show you these in a close-up right here. Now, what's interesting is things like AliExpress does have some really cool gauges you can get that are pretty small, but they look, kind of clear and they don't really quite feel the same. So what I did is I 3D modeled a cover for it, and I just will slide that on there. I'm still gonna finish these up a little bit, make them a little blacker, but I think they're gonna do the trick. They kind of look like them, which are, a little squarish. Now mine are more square than the ones in the actual panel, and there's a reason for that. Again, it's what I can find in that size. I'm willing to take chances and changes where I have to. I think if I found the actual gauge, which again I may have, that I'm going to use in a different panel, I would end up having to use 1, which would be fine if I had to. But this way, it's fine. I think we'll kind of still have that kind of proper look. Lastly on that panel is the actual phone or banana plug pieces, which I do have here. They plug right in and they go really well, and I got some extra cords. So I'm going to strip these down, make them loose up a little bit. It is wiring, insulated wiring cord or whatever, and I'll make some really cool looking pieces that will be able to kind of like, patch cord in. So it's pretty cool. Now jumping over to the other side, we have a number of pieces that I've identified, some that I haven't identified, and some pieces that I found. So hopefully we can work our way through this. Starting at the bottom, we have a light or a lens on the bottom left that I haven't quite identified. It does seem like there's a couple versions that were used. I'm not entirely sure, but they kind of look like they change here and there. But I have a lead on one that looks like it will do its job, because it's a fairly big one. It's like almost an inch big, so or an inch in size. So if I could find it, that would be excellent, and I'm hoping to be able to fit that on there. But next to that is 4 of these kind of, I guess, armed knobs, and I think these are pretty close. Now, some of these pictures you're gonna see they're missing one, but I'm gonna put all 4 just because, they're there, and they are surrounded by a hold washer that I'm either gonna have to custom make or find. I haven't found anything exactly right. Some close, but nothing exactly right, so I may end up getting them, again, laser cut out of metal and glue them on. But these ones are pretty close. They're low profile. They feel more vintage than some of the other ones I have. I have collected a few over the years, but I think these are the most authentic feeling. I'm not not entirely sure where I got them from, but I'm sure if you do some searching yourself, if you want to find these ones, you can find them. I will put some links about what they're called in the comments, in the description below rather, and then you can kind of track them down as well if you'd like. But I'm really happy with how close these came. Now above those, there is those gears again. So again, not sure what they are. I have made a mold, as I mentioned in my previous video, so they may end up just being that. I'm happy with that. They have LEDs that go across, so they may be, interacted with these knobs to actually click on a couple of them on or make them blink or something, just something cool. Now to the left of those are three red knobby things. Now what's interesting about these particular things is they were actually on the previous Matt Smith console as well. Again, I don't know what they are. I have done a lot of searching to figure it out. They kind of look like anything that goes on like piping. They also look like things that are mechanical switches as well, but I don't know if you recognize them. Please let me know. They do look like they're plasti dipped, like they're like that kind of shiny red rubberized feel to it. This is something that if I have to, I will make a 3D model and then plasti dip that and then make it work if I have to. They don't really do anything. They don't really have a function aside from just kind of turning. But what are they? Where do they come from? I have found, and I'm going to bring this up shortly with another knob on here, if you just keep looking for what you think it is, you don't always find it. And once you know the term, what it is, all of a sudden it's there and you just find it so quickly, which is what happened earlier today. I found out the name of something and I was able to find it just like that. So it's kind of frustrating, but I don't know what it is, but if you guys recognize or know someone that recognizes it, especially in the mechanical field, it would be really helpful. Now next to that is a big wheeled hand wheel. So here it is. This, to me, I think, I don't want to say 100%, but I'm pretty sure 100%. I'm going to say 90% sure that this is the exact one. This I did get from Bob's Bits. It's another one of those pieces that I sent them some photos and they were able to find some in their stock, which is where I think they got most of this stuff for the console was. There is no markings. There is no logos, labels, item numbers. It is clean. It is beautiful. It is metal. It has a center spot where we will mount the pole that will just help it go and spin. So it will do nothing, but it will spin. And it is, I think it's exact, or 90%, like I said. But I don't know what it is. I have looked and seen these. It is a wheel crank wheel. It's definitely used in like machining or in radios or something maybe audio visual. But I love it. I love the fact that I was able to find one. I was just going to 3D model this and print it. So I'm kind of happy to have this. Now, one thing I'm going to be doing is any of these hard to find pieces that isn't really labeled or we know what it is, I will be making 3D models of these and offering them in part of the 3D pack. However, we're going to do this at the end of this, one way or the other. I will make these available for people who want to 3D print them or modify them and whatnot to share it, because I'm okay with not being the only person with these, but I'd love to know what they are, and if failing that, we'll make them available for people who are trying to recreate this console one way or the other. Now to the right of that are 3 lights and 3 switches. Now they're just micro switches on the side, which I do have, which are right here, just little tiny guys. But beside those are the lights, and they are these. Now again, another thing that has no sort of identifying marks, but definitely are the same ones. Again, came from Bob's Bits. I was really happy to be able to get these, and I got 3 of them just like I needed, so I only have these. In my research for some other pieces, I think that they might be vintage dash controls, whether aircraft or vehicle, where you pulled things out like this for like turn signals or buttons or switches to do certain things, windshield wipers, you name it. A lot of vehicles had this, and it does relate to a panel that we haven't discussed yet that also has something similar, but with a green opaque lens. So I think they might be the same kind of thing. But no, I'm really happy to have these. The switches beside them will make these light up. That is the intention for sure. And yeah, I wish I had some more information about what they were, but so far that is my hypothesis of what they are. So they may help you find them. I have seen things like it, but not exactly. But hey, whatever you guys can find, I will update this with any sort of names or anything, and in my master document, which I will release at the end of this all. To the top right of that is another crank wheel that looks like the Ghostbuster one that I mentioned in my previous videos. Again, I think that the ones that were actually used on the console were the 1 1/4 size, but because of my diminutive size, I have decided to go with the smaller 1-inch one. I may change my mind. I may try and find those. We will see. It all depends on how much room I have, especially with this one, because next to it is another spinning crank device that I don't want them to kind of, you know, knock each other, and I don't want them to be in the way. But jumping to that one, it's another frustrating piece. This is another piece that shows up on multiple panels in that console room. It shows up on the sidebars. I'm gonna show some pictures of that. It is definitely a piece. It is definitely something that does something. It has a plate on the bottom that references 360 degrees, so it must have something to do with machining or setting something up that matters on what degree it is. Again, multiples of these, but I haven't found this at all. So I think part of it is not knowing what it's called or what it's for. So again, if you guys recognize this, if you know any machining contacts that would recognize this, that would be really, really helpful. But I did 3D model, for now, 3D model the piece that goes on top, the actual hand wheel or cranking portion of it. I have designed the bottom plate so that I can machine it or laser cut it or laser etch it. Whatever I decide to do, it is something I can do. It is something I can make. So worst case scenario, this will be made. This will be something that I will be designing and making. Best case scenario, someone out there recognizes it. Now jumping to the left of that is a phone. This phone has a few pretty cool details. Nick Roboto did actually post a couple pictures that showed the underside. So it's definitely a phone, because if you look here in the behind the scenes photos as well, they just grabbed it. It was just a phone that fit the space, and then he added some details on it. They removed buttons possibly, and just kind of stripped it down to had a couple of greeblies on it, and then a big thick cord to plug in to the cogs next to it. So I don't know what it is. This is something I may just 3D print. To fit my console, to find something, a phone that's smaller but yet the same would be kind of hard, but this will allow me to kind of make something really simple and then just 3D print it. I did 3D model the speaker grill pieces, which I'm going to show here, and I think that maybe look good. I think I need to thicken them up a little bit. I have come a long way in my 3D modeling since I started this, so hopefully I can show that off a little bit. Like I said, pretty simple. If you guys know what kind of phone this would have been, let me know. I know it's probably a UK, like I said, handset, as you can see in these behind the scenes photos, but I think it works for what it is. It's gonna be fine. Next to that, we finally come to the keyboard, probably the best piece of this entire thing. Now, what's interesting about this is another piece from Bob's Bits, and I'm gonna show the pictures here of the full keyboard, and you will see that it is a National Grid keyboard. It was used for editing or something where the color blocks mattered. It actually had a full keyboard underneath it. This was a piece I did end up getting from Bob's Bits. I'm super thrilled with it. I know a couple people have also ended up with them. What's really fun is kind of taking all those apart and then figure out what goes where. So thankfully, my friend James in the UK was gracious enough to go to Bob's Bits for this initial run and find me a whole bunch of pieces, including this keyboard, but it's a really heavy metal keyboard. So he ended up stripping it for me and then taking some photos and then just sending me the keys, which is all I really needed. And here we go. So as you're looking at the close-ups here, you'll see, I think I got the buttons pretty much where they need to go. I have a lot of reference and you can kind of barely see the text of what they are. It's really cool. I'm really happy with how it looks, and they all still kind of function. It's on those kind of keys that that very old school keyboard where they can all be separate. This won't do anything except let you click it, but hey, that's pretty fun. And it's just a fun detail. Like some of the buttons mean more to the Tardis than they do probably to its original use, like retro time, forward and backward, destination 1 through 4, retro time select, you know, trip relay reset. It's got some really cool buttons that kind of relate to Doctor Who. Now these aren't all the buttons on that keyboard. So in a future video, 2 videos from now, talking about custom console, I am using some of the unused keys for that. So I'm really looking forward to sharing that with you guys. But this is really cool. It's really fun, and I'm really looking forward to installing this. I did create on this, there is a laser cut piece of plastic. I'm probably gonna upgrade that to metal again for the same reasons that I mentioned before, plus the stability where I can actually put this in and I'll create a mounting system where it will just mount underneath as opposed to setting in. I think that would just be better for everyone, and plus allow me to keep the keys accessible. Again, not gonna do anything, but I'm really excited about them. Above that is more banana plugs with LED lights in them this time, and it's just these ones. So I have them separated in a separate bag, just to make sure I don't lose them. But they are just the same plugs that were used in the other panel. So I am going to use them in a few different places, probably in the custom console as well, because I got so many of them. But pretty neat, but with lights this time. Now right above that is some sliders that took me a long time to find. I didn't find them up until like 2-3 years ago. Never made a video on it. I did talk about it on my Instagram page, but it is these guys right here. What makes these unique compared to other sliders is other sliders are kind of like sunken in to a soundboard, or they have like a one of those like furry hidden gear thing, and you just kind of slide the post back and forth. These ones are all on top, which is kind of neat. This is by Penny and Giles. They are audio faders. This type is PGF3610D. They come in various sizes. So what was neat is I identified the ones that were used on the TARDIS console, and then I got one size down. And it's just lengths. Because this fits my build where I want it to fit, and it still has a long travel on it. I was also able to get the exact PNG slider plastic pieces in all the colors that I need. I did get doubles of that as well, just in case. It does have wiring, so again, I don't know if they'll do anything. I really don't know if they'll do anything. It would be nice if they did. However, at this point, there's really no real use to having them do something. I mean, if I have them go down, they'll turn on the light at the bottom, but we'll see. I'll talk to my electrician friends. If they have a way to make this work, then maybe we will. But they'll just be inset into the actual build, and then probably some sort of frame which they can screw into at the bottom. So I just got to figure that part out. But other than that, exactly what they used, and I love that. I just love finding these things, especially this was by accident. I already had a different slider chosen, and this was completely accidental. Now up from there are 6 whitish, grayish knobs, and I just found those today. So I don't have the information quite succinctly yet, and I'm still trying to get to know which item number it is, so I have a few emails out to try and get some samples, but they are Alma audio knobs with a different size. I estimate that they're around 20 millimeters in width. They're fairly large, not little tiny ones like the other ones in this build. So I'm just trying to figure out which ones they are specifically. What I found, what I was mentioning earlier, where I found the name of something, was that they're called Call It knobs. So that was my missing term, and they have a pointer on them. I don't know if you can really notice that in the show, but in these close-ups, I'm sure you can see the very bottom is like a little pointer. So finding that's going to be kind of making sure I'm getting the right ones, and I have a lead on that. So I'm excited to share that in a future video. Underneath that, the potentiometer that they're actually on, I don't know what that is. I tried taking a look. Most of them are round, the ones that you get. So wherever these came from, they either just sat them on there and they kind of freely spun. It didn't do anything, because I don't think they do anything. So I don't know what it is. So in the end, I may make something for this. Unless you recognize that square base post piece, I'd be very happy if you did, because I don't know what it is. Now to the left of those sliders and the knobs, there was 2 different devices, both of which are custom, both of which I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm inclined to put the Sonic charger on it. I have one from Nick Roboto that he makes for his Sonic displays, which I'll show you in the close-ups. It's pretty cool. I like it. It's just not the Sonic I used. So I don't know. Or I may put something custom there. I did have, like I said, a different device there initially that was swapped out for this. So yeah, whichever really works in the end that I want to go with, that'll be what I do. But let me know what you guys think. What would you put there? Would you put the Sonic charger on there? I mean, it's pretty cool, and to have one by Nick means that it's pretty much identical to what was used, so there is that. To the right of that, I'm just gonna skip over the radio because we'll come back to that in a second here. There is a couple little things there. There is 2 amber lights, which again, I may have found, but I'm not sure, and I'm waiting on the mail, but they're just kind of like basic lenses. But on their base is another ball bearing, thrust bearing kind of thing that's been stripped away. So there is that, they're kind of nested in it. So that's not part of the actual light. They kind of combine pieces for that, whether intentionally or maybe that's just how Bob's Bits just had them. It's hard to say, but that's what they are, they're kind of combined. Now underneath that is another red aluminum thing. I don't know what it is, spool? It's another definitely machined metal part that I'm not sure what it is, but I'm looking forward to seeing if we can find it. Again, if I can't find it, I'm just gonna make it. This is like the easiest one to make out of all the things I have to make for this build, so I'm looking forward to actually going over that. Now the radio is pretty cool. I have found one. I have the exact one. What's neat is this particular one has been through 2 iterations on the console build where they just kind of covered the face of it, which I may do, but I might not. We'll see how I feel. I may make it temporary to go on there. But basically, I gave up looking for this piece. I have a couple close-up images where you can kind of read the writing of what it is. Type 12748 radio, military radio, and it's great. It's very vintage. It has a very cool look. Could never find it. I found a couple images, you know, previous eBay auctions, worth points, etc. And it wasn't until I just randomly was showing Elena that this is how the searching happens, and you just kind of Google and you see what happens and one showed up for sale. I was like, whoa. So I contacted the place, heart beating hard, trying to figure out if I could get this, if it was just maybe an old listing, which has happened to me in the past where they're like, oh, sorry, this is already gone. It was just up there still. And they had it, and it was from Germany. And I said, I want it. And I paid more money than I probably should have paid for it, but I have it, and it's here. What's neat about this is this entire box you can actually see in Nick's behind the scenes photos, but it all comes apart and then just sets into the Tardis console, which is my intention, just to kind of set it in, make sure it fits. What's really fun about this is that all these knobs, I mean, they function and they did something in it, but they actually still do stuff. See, wind and turn and click, you know. It's really fun. As I mentioned, this part gets covered up. Based on this find that in this Doctor Who group I'm a part of, someone mentioned that the cover looked like one of these speaker grills. So what it looks like is they took the speaker grill, redesigned it and laser cut it out and put it on top. I don't know why they wanted to cover the gauge, but they did for whatever reason. So again, I may make it so that I can temporarily pop it on and off, but we will see. I like both ideas of it, but this is just really fun to have an actual, this is one of my highlights of the last couple of years of finding console pieces, because it's real. It's a Marconi's wireless telegraph company limited radio. It's all on the plate here, which you'll see in the close-ups. It's just really cool to have this. Finding actual used parts makes this console feel more tactile and real than just fabricating or finding brand new ones, in my opinion. So I'm really excited about this. Again, this is a piece that I will take as many reference images for anyone who wants to recreate it, because I know this would be super hard to find for if you're looking for it. It was really hard for me to find. It took me years. Now at the very top of this console, there's two things. One looks like they eventually added a DVD slot at the very top. I won't be doing that. I don't need to do that. But there are some dual lever faders underneath that, which haven't been identified yet. I'm hoping to be able to identify them in the next month or so. Recently, I put this up on Instagram to see if people could help me identify these pieces between this one and ones from another panel, which looked very similar. And I knew that they had to do something, and I may have found what they are, specifically being to control studio lights, as opposed to thrusters or quadrant faders for audio, that these would control lights, hence why they go from 10 to 0 on both of them. I discovered the other ones, which will be released in that video, which is next week, but these ones are still as yet unidentified, except for the fact of what they are. There is a vendor over in the UK who I was referred to by one of you guys on Instagram, which is so much thanks for that, that has several of these exact parts, which now looking at the pictures from Nick's behind the scenes, you can actually see the entire frame just slotted into the Tardis console. And they're the exact parts, and they have a number of them, but they unfortunately will not sell to me. They won't sell at all, apparently. So until I can find a way to either get my hands on them or have someone over there get their hands on it so I can replicate them, or find a way to eventually, woo them to get one of these. I don't know. I'm probably still back to manufacturing them myself, but they are cool. They're just half identified. So until I have the full information of brand and type and everything, I don't want to really talk about them too much on this video. But once I do, there'll be a separate video identifying everything. And then again, at the end of my entire build, there will be a master list that I've already started to decide, or just to describe everything that I found, discovered, and made. So anyway, guys, that is a mechanical panel. If you guys have any questions, please let me know down below. If you have any answers, that would also be great. I really appreciate any of the help I can get to find all these pieces, but thank you so much for those of you who have also already helped me identify some of these pieces, or at least point me in the right direction, which is what happened on the other faders on the other panel, which we'll be talking about next week. But guys, thank you so much for bearing with me on these videos, and as we build this, we're getting closer and closer to dry Vancouver weather as I look out the window. Almost there, and I can't wait to start building this. So guys, stay tuned for that. It's gonna be a lot of fun. But thank you guys so much for your continual support, subscribing, your liking of all videos, but most of all, thanks for watching.